Watershed, the geographic land area draining water to a shared destination. It's a term we hear, but perhaps not often enough to be sure exactly what it means or why it might be significant. We all live in one whether we know it or not. It's inescapable. We also can't escape the impact our lives have on the health of our watershed. As more of us inhabit this planet, the stewardship of our watershed plays an ever-expanding role in the quality and supply of water that flows from it.
Whoever thought of pharmaceuticals even 10 years ago was going to be a pollutant in your water? That fish were going to end up all being the same sex. You know, metrosexual fish floating around in the river. Bit of a problem.
In the summer of 1969, the Cuyahoga River in Ohio caught fire, striking evidence that something needed to change with the nation's approach to surface water management. It helped precipitate the formation of the Environmental Protection Agency in 1970 and what is now known as the Clean Water Act in 1972. Water quality has since rebounded with safer potable water and reduced contamination from discrete sources such as industrial and mine waste. The biggest remaining challenge is the management of scattered, non-point sources that have a less obvious cumulative impact on watershed health and water quality.
The health of the river really gives you a good gauge for what is the health of the whole watershed. Pretty much everything you do depends on the quality of the water.
Water quality awareness has evolved with human settlement and the way we value land and water. We now live in a Colorado where there is minimal hard rock mining and agriculture is being crowded out by a new generation of Coloradans. Residents of Colorado are more likely to seek out the state's recreational, scenic, and environmental qualities than ever before. This puts new pressures on watersheds that are often already stressed from multiple diversions, uses, and downstream obligations.
If you don't take a holistic view of the watershed from top to bottom and start looking at what are the impacts that are coming to us from upstream, what kinds of things are we giving to the people downstream, because there's always someone downstream. And how do we look at this unit as something that needs to be treated as a whole and not just bits and pieces and parts?
The Clean Water Act didn't necessarily enjoy a happy adolescence. Top-down administration is rarely a local stakeholder's favorite form of resource management. Solutions to water quality and supply problems have proven to be as much about grassroots cooperation as about water.
What we were doing before wasn't working. We had a very adversarial situation where different interests were fighting amongst one another, and so at some point people that didn't used to get along started coming together and saying, you know, let's just sit down together, have a cup of coffee, and see if we can start working around our differences. And that was really the birthplace of what we now call watershed groups.
Within the state of Colorado, there are 76 active watershed groups, each addressing concerns local to their basin. The Colorado River is the state's highest water-yielding basin with a full spectrum of watershed group activity. Along its course and major tributaries, 7 counties and 5 watershed groups, in cooperation with many agencies, associations, and branches of local government, help shepherd the river safely downstream.
The challenges that these groups face differ from place to place. Every group is going to have their own set of challenges, but I do think there are some common themes.
In the headwaters, groups have gravitated to concerns with flows, temperature, sediment, and mine activity. Downstream through the Middle River and Grand Valley, group activity has more often been seeded by impacts related to population growth, invasives, agricultural uses, and energy development. Maintaining watershed health together with water supply is the obvious catalyst for group formation, but it's the challenges of organization that are often what test a group's effectiveness the most, such as recruitment of stakeholders.
We're on a mission from God.
Filling knowledge gaps.
In an effort to alleviate the effects of the anyone?
The right level of technical expertise.
the plants aren't growing. So I'm pretty sure that the Brondo's not working. Now, I'm no botanist, but I do know that if you put water on plants, they grow.
Building consensus.
I fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries.
Is there someone else up there we could talk to?
And everyone's favorite.
The funding.
And funding.
Funding.
Funding is always a challenge.
Show me the money! Show me the money!
You know, I think the challenges are individual to the individual watersheds, and that's appropriate.
Being clear on which challenges lie ahead is key to building an effective watershed group. But simply identifying problems is not a sustainable means of growing grassroots support. Assembling a toolkit of cooperative homegrown solutions is the role within local water resource management that watershed groups are usually best suited to fill.
Well, I think the biggest challenge for the Watershed Partnership is really trying to develop our identity, if you will, and making sure that all our interests are being addressed, or at least we bring focus to whatever our interests are.
The health of all of our surface waters here in Summit County are extremely important to the economy. Recreation is a major component. It's what really has brought all the people that live here now, because they want to enjoy the use of the streams. They want to enjoy the use of the Dillon Reservoir.
Collaboration is extremely important. It can't be done without collaboration. To get citizen groups involved to help create riparian buffers along streams or what have you builds the type of partnerships that actually build trust.
You're bringing together this wide range of people who all use the rivers and the watersheds, and you bring those stakeholders together, whether they're land developers, whether they're private property owners, whether they're ranchers with extensive water rights, whether they're rafting or commercial fishing interests or casual recreationists. And it doesn't have to be just in the water on the rivers. It can be the land use agencies, groups from the state level like the Division of Wildlife to the federal level, the Bureau of Reclamation and the Forest Service.
You know, in the White River National Forest, we're really changing the way we're approaching how we manage the resources, how we manage the land. In the past, we've kind of been a little bit more specific on a project in a certain area, but currently we're really trying to focus at whole-scale landscape restoration of a watershed. The only way that we'll be successful at doing that is through collaboration. And so working with the Blue River Watershed Group, a nonprofit agency like that, they're the perfect entity, they're the perfect key for us to work with and grab partners, bring stakeholders together, and get those projects off the ground, because we won't be able to do it by ourselves.
Agricultural stakeholders are often the largest private landowners in a watershed. Fledgling watershed groups reaching out to farmers and ranchers are often met with the reluctance of those fearing much to lose for little gain.
There is a good synergy going on between watershed groups and agriculture. I believe there's still a sense of suspicion that it still permeates some of the agricultural community, but a lot of that is being eliminated by groups that are getting together and understanding the issues of agriculture, understanding the economics of agriculture.
The collaborative process, in my mind, isn't the answer to all problems and all challenges, but it certainly is a good one for an awful lot of the challenges that watershed groups face.
Watershed groups need to be science-based so that they're not making decisions on just the heart motivation, but there's some good science behind decisions that are being made.
It's very important to have good quality monitoring information available so you can see if there is a problem, and then once you identify the problem and you try to apply corrections if they are working.
We strongly believe, and our motto is that good science leads to good data, which will lead to good decisions.
One of the things that we're trying to figure out about this piece of the watershed is what do we know, and then what don't we know, and then how do we find out what we don't know, and then turn that into a plan of action.
Watershed groups are the starting point for most watershed plans in the state. They go to local government or they go to state government or some other agency and say, We need to look at our watershed as a whole and try and figure out how to manage it in a way that benefits all of us. That usually doesn't start from the government level. That usually starts at the grassroots.
One of our primary challenges is to get John Q. Public into the room and to listen to what we have to say about the watershed, because I think that most people don't understand a watershed, and most people don't understand water, especially in the desert Southwest.
We had, upwards of 90 people, just general citizens, come out for 3 evenings in a row to learn about water law and water policy, which I think is pretty impressive.
Education is hugely important, and so we get the students out directly interacting with the watershed, where they'll be doing their own testing. In the wintertime, we have a lot of snow here, and we'll focus on snow-water equivalency, and students will determine how much water is in our watershed, and they'll later able to be able to figure out how do we manage our water.
Once groups have filled out their toolkit, they're able to build unique solutions that successfully meet targeted needs within their watershed.
Some of the successes we've had in our watershed group are on the ground. We brought to light an issue on Vail Pass that was really just a management issue of keeping a very well-traveled roadway that's important to our economy open in a way that respects the natural environment, that wouldn't impact one of our headwater streams with sediment, sand and sediment coming off the roadway, and that progress has really been evident over the last few years, and with great cooperation from the Colorado Department of Transportation and all of our partners in the watershed. We've made some great strides in mitigating the impacts of sand and sediment coming off the roadway.
We have a segment of stream called Prue Creek, which is one of the highest classified impaired sections of stream in the state of Colorado. And it's biologically dead from the mining that took place over 100 years ago. Now, since we've collaborated with the Forest Service, we're looking at stream restoration, of actually improving back to a natural environment, a stream that's been damaged.
The Interstate 70 corridor is not just a roadway. The roadside also provides a significant non-point source of pollution. Roadside cleanups have become a popular means for watershed groups to enhance watershed health while also promoting public participation.
I think it's the largest cleanup in the state, if not the region. We clean 120 miles of highway, all with volunteers. And I think that we have about 1,000 people out on the highways for this cleanup.
We just want to beautify our environment, take care of it, be good stewards of what we've been given, and try to pass it on in better shape to the next generation.
Never litter!
We really want to do a better job educating the public about the importance of water and how they can take action to protect it. And to that end, Roaring Fork Conservancy has really had the vision to create a river education facility in the center of the Roaring Fork watershed. And it'll really put water on the map in our valley because it'll provide that place where people can gather and talk about water issues.
As Colorado and the western states continue to grow, so too does the momentum behind watershed group activity.
I am somewhat envious of a lot of the watershed groups across the state. We haven't had that sort of grassroots, sort of community level here in the Grand Valley yet. I think it's something that's going to come in the future.
I think the main thing watershed groups can provide to any watershed throughout Colorado, but especially in the Colorado River Basin, is a perspective that you don't get with a lot of other agencies where we're focused on a watershed itself. So a watershed group can really cross those jurisdictional boundaries that often separate one county from another, but the river doesn't care. The river flows from one county to the next, and it connects the whole watershed. And so the watershed groups really help to connect the water together regardless of political boundaries.
We all agree on one thing about water and the land that supports it. There's a finite amount. Watershed groups provide a locally driven framework for new demand and existing uses to tread softly when managing our most critical resource.
I think it's really important that people remember that the supply of water in this region is very limited, and so it needs to be treated very special in order to keep it safe and in a quantity that's going to support all of us, and as our community continues to grow, that we can have a supply of water available to us that will support the human population in this area.
So really it's being able to localize your solutions, find solutions that are based on your landscape, your culture, your people. And also, I think one of the biggest positive outcomes that we find quite often is the ability for long-standing tensions and lack of trust to be addressed so that you can actually implement those solutions. Because it's one thing for a group of people to go into a room and have good ideas about what we ought to do, but you're not going to be able to implement those solutions unless you've worked with the various people that are going to be affected or need to be involved.
If you want to find your local watershed group, try contacting your County Department of Health, your local municipal utilities manager, or a local citizens group active in natural resource issues. You can also try Google. Insert the largest river name in your area before the words Watershed Group.